The snow came faster than anyone expected. What had been a light December flurry in the late afternoon quickly turned into a blinding white curtain, swallowing the small town of Millfield whole. Roads became slick ribbons of ice. Cars crept along, tires slipping. Lights in windows flickered as the storm thickened. And on the edge of town, in a small two-story house painted pale yellow, 82-year-old Martha Evans pulled another quilt onto her lap and sighed. Martha lived alone, though no one looking in would think so. Her living room overflowed with hand-knitted blankets stacked on chairs, porcelain teacups lying neatly on shelves, and photographs of her late husband Henry smiling proudly beside her on their wedding day. A fire burned low in the hearth, snapping against the silence of the storm outside. She was used to the quiet. Most of the time, she even liked it. But storms had a way of stirring old loneliness. She was reaching for her knitting basket when the unmistakable growl of engines rumbled faintly through the snow. Martha frowned. Who in their right mind would be riding motorcycles in this weather? She tugged back the curtain. At first, all she could see were headlights bobbing in the whiteout. Then they grew clearer, massive figures in leather jackets, their motorcycles parked haphazardly in her driveway, exhaust clouding in the freezing air. 15 of them. Big men and women, their breath fogging as they tried to shake snow from their coats. Martha's heart skipped. She'd heard stories of bikers. Rough types. People you avoided at the gas station. But before fear could settle, she noticed one of them, the tallest, with a beard dusted white with snow, knocked gently at her door. "Ma'am?" His voice, muffled by the storm, was polite. Almost uncertain. "Sorry to bother you. Roads are a mess, and we don't got anywhere safe to wait it out. Could we, just stand on your porch a bit?" Martha stared at them. Their jackets were soaked, their gloves stiff with ice. She imagined them out there all night, fighting the storm, and her heart softened. Henry used to tell her, when you can choose between fear and kindness, choose kindness. Fear makes walls. Kindness builds doors. "Don't just stand on the porch," she said, swinging the door wide. "You'll freeze to death. Get in here before you all turn into icicles." The bikers exchanged surprised glances. Then, one by one, they shuffled in, careful to stomp the snow from their boots. Inside, they seemed even larger, towering over her floral wallpaper and lace curtains. Their tattoos and patches looked almost comically out of place against her neat little living room. But their eyes told the truth, tired, cold, and grateful. "Much obliged, ma'am," said the bearded one. "Name's Dale. We were riding cross-country when the storm hit. Didn't expect." "Storms don't wait for permission," Martha interrupted briskly. "Now hang those coats on the rack and sit. I'll put on some tea." They obeyed, awkwardly peeling off wet layers. The house filled quickly, leather jackets draped over chairs, boots lined by the door. Martha bustled around, setting out mismatched teacups and digging out the extra blankets she'd kept for decades. Soon the bikers were huddled on her sofas and rug, cradling steaming mugs of chamomile. The fire crackled brighter, warming not just the room but the tension. "You knit all these blankets yourself?" one of the women asked, stroking the edge of a quilt. "Every last one," Martha said proudly. "Idle hands make for restless minds." The bikers chuckled. Slowly, the walls of difference between them began to melt. Dale told her about his granddaughter learning to ride her bike without training wheels. Another biker, nicknamed Tank, admitted he collected antique coins. One woman named Grace pulled out her phone to show Martha photos of her 3 dogs, all dressed in ridiculous sweaters. And Martha, in turn, shared stories of Henry, how he used to ride a motorbike himself back in the 50s, long before arthritis set in. How they'd drive through back roads in the fall, the leaves swirling like confetti. The storm raged harder outside, but inside the little house, laughter filled the air. By midnight, Martha had pulled out every loaf of bread and jar of jam from her pantry. The bikers ate like starved children, thanking her between bites. When yawns grew contagious, she insisted they spread out across her living room and hallway, wrapping themselves in her quilts. "You'll manage for one night," she said firmly. Tomorrow, roads will be clear. They slept like rocks, the house echoing with snores. Martha sat awake in her rocker a while longer, watching them. 15 strangers brought to her door by a snowstorm. She whispered into the flames, as if Henry might be listening. You were right. Kindness builds doors. Morning came with startling silence. The storm had passed, leaving a glittering world of white. Sunlight spilled through frosted windows. Martha shuffled to the kitchen to put on coffee. The bikers stirred, groggy but smiling. They helped fold blankets, tidy the mess, and shovel her walkway. Well, ma'am, Dale said, pulling on his jacket, we owe you more than we can say. You kept us safe. We won't forget it. Martha waved them off. Nonsense. You needed shelter. I had it. That's all. But Dale shook his head. It's not all. Not to us. The 15 roared off down the road, leaving only tire tracks in the snow. Martha watched them disappear, a small ache tugging at her heart. She hadn't realized how lively the house had felt with them inside. Now, it seemed quieter than ever. She made her tea and sat by the window. She figured that was the end of it. But the next morning, something strange happened. The low rumble of engines returned. Martha blinked, setting down her cup. When she opened her door, her jaw dropped. Not 15. Not even 20. At least 100 motorcycles lined her street, gleaming chrome, polished paint, handlebars catching the sun. Men and women in leather stood beside them, talking quietly. Some carried bags of groceries. Others held toolboxes. A few had armfuls of blankets. Dale stepped forward, smiling under his beard. Morning, Martha. What on earth is all this? She asked, eyes wide. We told the club about you, he said. About how you opened your home to 15 freezing strangers without a second thought. Word spread. Folks wanted to meet the lady who reminded us what kindness looks like. Martha's throat tightened. All of you? All of us, Dale said. And we're here to say thank you. Properly. Before she could respond, bikers began unloading supplies. Some carried in fresh firewood and stacked it neatly by her porch. Others fixed the broken hinge on her gate. 2 women cleaned her gutters while another group shoveled her driveway again. Someone set up a brand new generator by her back door. Martha stood frozen, tears brimming. She wasn't used to receiving. She'd given her whole life, quilts for the church, pies for neighbors, donations to every charity drive. But this was different. This was overwhelming. As the day went on, her little home buzzed with activity. Bikers repaired her fence, salted her walkway, restocked her pantry, even tuned up her old furnace. One of them installed a ramp for her porch just in case stairs got tricky someday. Inside, others filled her cupboards with food, her fridge with fresh produce. Grace handed her a phone with numbers already programmed in. Anytime you need something, she said, you call. We'll come. By afternoon, the yard was spotless, the house warmer, the pantry full. And outside, the 100 bikes gleamed in the winter sun, a sight so surreal Martha could hardly believe it was real. She sat in her rocker, wrapped in one of her own quilts, watching them work. For the first time in years, she didn't feel alone. She felt surrounded, by strength, by laughter, by a community she'd never expected. When the bikers finally gathered to leave, Dale placed a hand gently on her shoulder. You gave us shelter for one night, he said quietly. But you gave us more than that, Martha. You reminded us we're better when we look out for each other. That matters. Don't think we're done checking in either. You're family now. Her eyes blurred with tears. Words failed her, so she simply squeezed his hand. As the engines roared to life, the street vibrated with power. One by one, the bikes rolled out, leaving the little yellow house stronger, brighter, fuller than it had been in decades. And on her porch, Martha stood watching, her heart swelling as the sound faded into the distance.